Thank you. We'll call the meeting to order. It's 6:30. I have some brief instructions for everyone since this is a Zoom meeting. And I'll cover these again, but I want to get these out right away. Please do not chat in to the meeting until we get to public comments. And then we'll open the floor for discussion. If you chat in comments or questions, it fills up the moderator's sidebar. And when you use the chat to sign in, it mingles the words with people's names, and it makes it difficult. And it's very easy to overlook a name. So please do not chat in any comments. And like I say, I'll repeat this again. But for public comments, we will use the chat feature instead of the sign-up sheet. So thank you for your cooperation. Jim will be our moderator tonight. My device is a cell phone, and he has a computer, so it works much better. We'll call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Rives Township Planning Commission. And we have a new member with us tonight. And as I do a roll call vote, I'd like to introduce our members. So please answer, and also just raise your hand since we're by Zoom so I can see. Dwight Carmer? Present. Jim Limstrom?
Present.
Present. Adam Williams?
Present.
And Christine Beecher? Present. And Judy Camp, Chairman, present. Christine is our new member, board member, and we would like to thank you and welcome you officially to the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Let the minutes reflect that roll call vote was taken and all members are agenda. An amendment our agenda once again under public comments for number 2, and it will be the same as last time, that we will change the word chairman to moderator, and we will change the word sign up sheet to chat sign in, number 2. So it will read, the moderator will recognize you by the chat sign in for comments. Any other changes to the agenda? All right, if not, I would entertain a motion to accept the agenda with changes.
Make the motion to be amended, or be approved as amended.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, I'll answer by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Approve.
Is there any nays? Then the motion is carried, all yays and no nays. Review and approve minutes of November 23rd, 2020 regular PC meeting. Everyone has a copy, and if you need to take a moment to read that again, that is fine. If you have questions, that is fine. I'll give you a minute and you can let me know at what point you're ready. Has everybody had a minute to look over the minutes then?
Yes.
Then the chair will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as read,
As written.
as written, sorry.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the November meeting minutes.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there support?
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
All
Aye.
right.
Those opposed? Motion is carried. All ayes. No nays.
Roger, did you mention abstain with the explanation?
Thank you, Jim. I have, is there anyone that abstains?
I'll abstain.
Thank you. My mistake, Chrissy. It's I have it right there. Sorry about that. The motion is carried by 4 and 1 abstain. As Christine was not in the last meeting to participate. Thank you, Jim. Report, Zoning Board of Appeals, Dwight.
Have not had any meetings.
Township Board, Christine,
I'm sorry.
anything?
No, nothing.
Well, so, yeah, so what we do, being, Dwight is chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals as well. So on our agenda, we have reports. And if Dwight has something to share, it's a nice way to tie our boards together. And you being the township board member, so if there's a business that takes place on the township board, our commissioner that serves there and serves, we usually gives us a brief report. Sometimes it's not a lot of detail. It's just, you know, maybe we're looking at buying a new fire truck or who knows. And then if members have questions, sometimes they drill down on it. But it's a nice way of having continuity between boards, and vice versa. When you go to the township board, should they ask it about what, maybe where the planning commission is or what they're doing, you would be that person that you know, would keep them in the loop as well. So that's why we have that on there. So any questions about that function?
We did approve a new sign for the fire station on Main Street.
Okay, interesting. Anything else you'd like to share?
Yes. We have an ordinance draft as well that we are currently working on.
What is that for?
That's to have our ordinances, to have them posted. So this Township of Rives is aware of what they are,
Okay,
so that the lay people can be knowledgeable as to what the ordinances are, especially since the COVID has limited our accessibility to the township, you know, offices and such.
certainly. Any of the members have any further questions for Christine?
None.
And
Does that conclude your report then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. PC members, anything to report? Any PC members want to share? Adam, I'll kind of go around the table. Adam,
Nothing for me.
Dwight,
Jerry, well, the board actually appointed a new member to the ZBA at the last meeting. Were you at the last meeting, Christine?
At
Regular board meeting?
Yes, sir.
Frank Adamczyk was appointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Yes.
Okay. He is taking the place of David Wright, who resigned.
very good. Thank you, Dwight. Jim?
nothing.
And as a PC member Christine, anything to comment on?
No.
I have one thing I'd like to bring up. In our last meeting, we had to change our meeting date because one of the members had a conflict. And so we changed that meeting date, and we did not use a motion. And so there was no motion, there was no question, there was no second. And someone pointed that out to our attention, that you know, that it maybe was a violation, and that parliamentary procedure went out the window, and they said this should be addressed. So we're going to address it. So first of all, a parliamentary procedure did not go out the window. That would be a mistake. That would be a false statement. It did not go out the window. And the process used was very much parliamentary, and it was called unanimous consent. It's also known as general consent, and that is a parliamentary procedure. So I would like to read, this is a great learning moment for Planning Commission members. We accept our challenges, and when we make mistakes, we're human, and when we make mistakes, we will own those mistakes, and we will do better in the future. But in this case, there was no mistake. So let me read from a photocopy from Robert's Rules of Order. And Jim, I will send this to you so you can attach it to the minutes as well. So the headline here, or the header, is adoption of a motion or action without a motion by unanimous consent. In cases where there seems to be no opposition in routine business or on questions of little importance, time can often be saved by the procedure, there it is, a procedure of unanimous consent, or as it was formerly also called, general consent. Action in this manner is in accord with the principle that rules are designed for the protection of the minority and generally need not be strictly enforced when there is no minority to protect. That would be someone that opposed to what we were doing, the business on the table. That would be the minority. Lost my place. Yeah, the rules are designed for the protection of the minority and generally need not be strictly enforced when there is no minority to protect. Under these conditions, the method of unanimous consent can be used either to adopt a motion without the steps of stating the question and putting the motion to a formal vote, or it can be used to take action without even the formality of a motion. To obtain unanimous consent in either case, the chair needs to state if there is no objection, which I did. I said, does everybody agree with this date? And they all did. I don't have to say specific words. It's just covering the bases. And then I wait. There was no objection. Everyone agreed with the new date. The action that he, the chair, mentions will be taken, or he may ask, is there any objection to? After a pause and no member calls out, I object, the chair announces that since there's no objection, the action is decided on. And if any member objects, the chair must state the question on a motion. So there it is. We used, or the chair used, and everyone participated in unanimous consent, and the rules were followed. Everyone agreed with the date, and we just moved forward. So pop quiz. By show of hands, and I can't see you, Adam. On my screen, I can only get 4 people. How many understood the process of unanimous consent that the chair was using in the last meeting? And I can't, so I can't see you, Adam. Did you understand the process?
I did.
So, and Christine wasn't there, so the entire board understood the process. So, sorry to take up your time and waste your time, but nonetheless, it's a great moment to, just to review that process. As chairman, I'm going to move off this because it's a waste of time. But I must tell you, in my years of being the chair, I've had PC members tell me, you don't need them, you make too many motions, you call for too many motions. So I get it both ways. So I prefer to use motions as a chairman, but I have different pathways I can choose whenever I so desire. So any questions about unanimous consent before we move along? I'll send that to you. You can attach it to the minutes. So that concludes our PC member comments. I'd like to get into our new business, and the first thing we have is to welcome you once again. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? And of course, you've been in our meetings, so you know who I am. You know who Jim is, the secretary, and Dwight, who's the vice chair, as it states on our agenda, and also chairman of the ZBA, and then Adam is a PC member. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, Roger. I grew up in Rives. I was displaced for a short time during college and law school, and I moved back here when my son was a baby, and I wanted him to grow up here and have the same experiences as I did. So I currently work in Jackson as an attorney, and I'm a realtor as well. And I'm the lucky mom of a 13-year-old boy.
And we're glad to have you on board because is it fair to say you're a lifelong resident?
Yeah, I mean, even when I lived in East Lansing, I came home almost every weekend. So.
Yeah, but I know you started out over on Prime Road, correct?
Right.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and with your family. So I know you've been, and that's what we like. We like people. You know, it's always helpful when they're lifelong residents and they know the lay of the land, and I think more important, have a feel for how we live here.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome aboard. And tonight when we move into our ordinance, we want to make sure you understand it, and so feel free with plenty of questions. If I don't ask, just raise your hand and say, I have a question, or I want to understand this better. So are we ready to move forward? We'll go into the second piece of business, which is, I just called it our light industrial and zoning review, because last month, we covered and went over the light industrial district with some questions, but there's a couple other zoning changes that we've also included, which is, section 1701 and section 1723 out of our ordinance book, and there's some amendments made there. And then Article 8, which is in our ordinance book, we added a new section 17.99. And so
And Roger, Roger, I'd point out that those have come right along with draft number such and such, followed by draft number such and such, et cetera, through draft number 6 is what we're discussing now.
yes,
It's been in those drafts all along.
Yes,
right?
it is. And I'm doing some of this for the new member.
Well, I'm
you
saying
know,
that I'm saying that for the attendees that are in the, what do we call it? In the,
I use the word gallery, but
well, it's got, yeah, whatever that other, I don't
Sure.
see where the participants that are not part of the meeting yet, but that are listening. That's why,
Yeah.
that's why I laid that out, that it's been in these drafts.
yeah, thank you, Jim. Yes, we're still looking at draft 6. And in the last meeting, we focused on the industrial district in draft 6, but there's other parts to it where we amended section 1701. So I'd like to look at that tonight and section 1723. And then we're going to look at what we did under Article 8 and review that as
Which was
well.
the performance guarantees, the escrows, the decommissioning, and the reclamation, that language that the township wanted, residents wanted to have guarantees, I guess is what it amounts to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when we get there, we'll take a look at that. So if you want to look in your ordinance book, turn to page 53 in your ordinance book. That will be section 17.01. Everybody there, page 53, that is section 17.01. And the change we made there was the last 2.5 lines, starting with the word if, we struck that line out
And just so the people, just so that the people attending in the audience understand that the change happened like 13 months ago. When, you know, before the COVID, we were right on the verge in the December meeting a year ago now of going to a public hearing. But then it got tabled, and then COVID hit, and now here we come. So that what you're describing now is 12 months old. And what you're going to describe in 1723 is 12 months old also. I mean, that's, so it's appropriate that we restate it now, but we're not, this is not a new thing, this is an old thing.
Thank you. Yes, right, Jim. Thank you. These Zoom meetings are a little difficult that way. But yes, this is a review. This is not new. Anything we're doing tonight is not new. It's all a review. And this is some things we had not looked at. And so we're just looking at these changes we made again and making sure our new member is up to speed, and it's a good review for all of us at the same time. So as you look at that, the change was where we struck the last few lines that read this: and it's under the purpose, or in 1701. And it says, if the specific use of land, natural resources, and structures are not listed as a permitted use in this ordinance, conditional use permits are required and can be granted by the Rives Township Board. We felt that language was dangerous. We thought that language exposed the Planning Commission to a test, perhaps even in court, because it says if it's not listed, if a specific land use is not listed, and Jim brought up the question, how can they list them all? As a permitted use in the ordinance, conditional use permit are required and can only be granted by the township board. So we struck that to give us some protection and to give us a stronger handle on our ordinance. Members, input, how do you remember that? If I'm off a little bit, correct me. This is what we're doing it for, so we can all be on one accord. Everybody in agreement with the reasoning behind that move there?
Yes.
Yes.
So then we move to section 17.23. And that is on page 64 of your ordinance book, if you wanted to flip there to see where it fits in. That's on page 64. That's where it fits into your book, section 17.23. And there's ABC. We did not touch A. We amended B, and we did not touch C. And B was changed over the course of 3 different meetings. We visited that different times and did things, and then we tweaked it again and again. So the way it reads today, and here again, we did this we felt the language was dangerous, and it exposed us and it committed us to things. So we changed it. I'll read from the ordinance how it reads right now for those in the gallery. A conditional use shall be permitted only if listed as a conditional use, either specifically or by necessary implication in the zoning ordinance in which the use is to be located, and only after a conditional use permit has been approved by the township board. The finished product reads, a conditional use shall be considered. The word permitted was changed to considered. A conditional use shall be considered only if listed as a conditional use. And the words were struck either specifically or by necessary implication. That line was struck out of there. And then it continues, in the zoning district in which the use is to be located, and only after a conditional use permit has been, new words added, reviewed by the planning commission and approved by the township board. And in our current ordinance, it could be argued that the planning commission is circumvented and left out, and strong words shall be permitted. Once again, were just not favorable words for us all through our districts. So the procedure is that the planning commission reviews things and recommends to the board, and yes, the board does approve, but we put that step back in there so it couldn't be argued that somehow the planning commission is circumvented. And of course, the strong word considered is in there as well. Comments, questions, anyone? All right, great. We'll move on. The next thing that we have in our draft is the site plan, or excuse me, Article 8, site plan review. And this is all new language that we added at some point when we were doing this work. And this is the performance guarantee, escrow, decommissioning, and reclamation clause that we didn't have in our ordinance anywhere. And that was put in there, and that's all new language. So there's no change to our ordinance, but the change will be adding this. And I think that's been read several times. And I might add that, Jim, correct me if I get this wrong, but the work in section 1701 that we just read, and 1723B that we visited 3 different meetings, and the escrow work, this wasn't only done by CWA principal planner John Enos, this work that we're just discussing was run by attorney Chris Patterson. It was run by attorney Fred Lucas, and it was run by law clerk Kendall O'Connor. And it was tested very hard and scrutinized. And their opinion was that language that was struck and the words changed were very much needed, and they were they could have really put us in harm's way. And it was our planning commission that found those things, and we wanted those folks to test it, and that's the test that came back. And secondly, they worked improved the performance guarantee as well. So does anyone have any questions over the performance guarantee? Yeah, go ahead, Dwight.
Okay, I'm looking at the draft 6, the clean copy that I have with these changes, where the changes have been made, and that is dated April 1, 2020. So as Jim stated, these aren't changes that we had made recently. They were done a long time ago.
Correct. Yeah, and some of these were behind the scenes, were being worked on by these professionals,
Right.
and presented to us at whatever date. Yeah, exactly. This is
So they
nothing
would have
new.
been changed in February or March in order to have the clean copy dated April 1.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing I'd point out that in our draft here of number 6, the order that these are shown here has section 1799 ahead of 1755. As we, if and when this is approved through the public hearing, and we recommend it to the township board, and the township board adopts these 4 sections, 1701, 1723, 1799, and 1755, the person that collates the ordinance will shuffle and put 1799 in order in the book where it should go, which would be after 1755. It's just the way we have it. And when the audience is able to see the advertisement, when and if we make an advertisement for the public hearing of this, just wanted to point that out, that the order will be shifted by whoever collates the book to get it in the right place.
Thank you. Good point. And I like flipping. I think it's necessary that we use our zoning ordinance and flip pages. It gets us familiar with the book. So if you would like to turn to page 94, that is Article 8. So what Jim just mentioned, this Article 8 is site plan review, and you'll read that in your book on page 94. And then I'll take you to the correct section where this is going to fit in. So this is where site plan review is found. And we've got to go to page 97, and you'll see how this all comes together. It's page 97 in our zoning ordinance book. It ends with section 17.98, and this is called section 17.99, and it will fit into our book right there. And it's these performance guarantees are across all districts. So that's where it is in your book, and that's how it fits in. Any questions about that? I'd like to take us back to something else to look at in the book. And in our zoning book, let me get there. So turn to page 63 in your zoning book. Christine,
Yes.
did you get a master plan book yet? It's a,
Is it the, yep. What color is it?
Green notebook.
I got
don't
stuff
believe I have
falling. We'll, we're going to visit that book in a minute, and hang on here. I had stuff falling off. So 63 in our zoning book. So section 17.20. What you see there is established zoning districts, and it lists, you know, our districts that we have: ag, residential, mobile home, commercial, and industrial. And it gives a symbol next to them that can be used throughout the book or on maps and in legends and so forth. So the term on page 63 is industrial district, and the legend is I.
Mhm.
Now, does anyone, as you know, we're changing our industrial district to light, but all through the master plan, we use the symbol I, and we use terminology, and through our book, we use terminology industrial district, but when we get there, we drill down on light industrial. So I'd like to take us, so I want to point that out. This isn't something we've overlooked. And I want to point out a few things to you and then get your opinion on this. So if you could grab your master plan book, and sorry you don't, I'm so sorry you don't have one, but if you would turn in your master plan to 2-9, 2-9. Because our master plan is the guide that we follow, and I want you to feel comfortable with terminology. So on 2-9, we see the word industrial in our, we don't use light industrial, we just use the word industrial. It's a term. It's not a definition, it's a term. And it goes on to talk about industrial properties in the township. And as we flip through some pages here, and we go to 3-4, once again at the top in the master plan, you'll see industrial land uses. But when you read the goal, there it starts to hammer down light industrial land. And without spending time reading that, but then it starts out light industrial. We go just below that on objectives. And number 1, consider light industrial development. Number 2, consider light industrial. Consider. And there we have light industrial, where this master plan drills down deep on it, just under a terminology. And I want you to be either comfortable with that or uncomfortable and question it now and not later. We move to page 3-7, and you'll see the word light industrial used there, not only as a header, And then it talks about light industry continues to be small within the township. There it is again. And then on page 3-8, we talk about, at the bottom, the last bullet there, the industrial district, symbol I, which matches page 63 of your zoning ordinance. Does everyone see how that ties in together? And is everyone comfortable with that?
Is there
I'm
a
going to take
reason,
you. Go ahead.
is there a reason that we can't distinguish it between like a I1 and an I2 for light industrial and general industrial?
There probably isn't. We have in our township just light industrial currently.
Okay,
There isn't much, but what we have is already light. So there isn't, conflicts there. But that's why I'm pointing this out, to get input from members and thought. I have a few more things to point out, and then let's get into our discussion. We'll flip through the book. I want to go to the maps, which are back in Appendix C. So our maps start at the back of the book, Appendix C, and we'll go through these quickly because the first map is a base map. It has a legend, but nothing to do with the districts. The next one is Parks and Recreation. There's a legend unique to that, nothing to do with the districts that we're talking about on page 63 of our zoning ordinance. Then there's a transportation map, same story. Then there's one on pipelines and airports, same story. Sanitary sewer maps, same story. There's a topography map, productive ag soils, wet soils, flood zone, same thing, unique legends to those. And then we get to C12. I know I went fast, but now we're on C12. And it's property assessment map. And in parentheses, it says existing land use, not land zoning, but land use. There is a difference. And there's a legend there. And this legend does not quite agree with page 63. And it says agricultural, residential, commercial, industrial, operating railroads, and institutions. Why would that be? Because this map comes out of the tax department. It's a property assessment map, and it was provided out of the tax department, added into the master plan, and those are the legends that they use. That's why. So it's not a conflict with page 63, and the industrial is not a statement. It's just a term in their legend. Does everybody see that?
mm-hmm.
The next map on page C13 is a countywide future land use map. And that legend doesn't agree with our page 63 either. How come? It says residential, commercial, industrial, greenway, agricultural preservation areas. And there's a very good reason for it. It's not our map. That belongs to the county. That belongs to Region 2. And it's their map, it's their legend, and it's not for us to change or fool with. We just brought it into our master plan to include, the county, and it's there as a reference. So once again, this isn't anything to stumble over. We get to the aerial photo, there's no legend, and then we get to C15, which is a future land use map. And there we have light industrial. Future land use, light industrial. This is a guide. This is a plan that has led us to where we're going in our ordinance to light industrial. See how that ties together? We flip the page to the last map, C16, and that's a zoning map. And the terminology is industrial. Well, The zoning map is part of our zoning ordinance text, and it could not be changed without going through the text changes that in public hearing that we're about to go through. And that therein lies the question of what you want to do with that. So this is just riding along in the master plan. The master plan has no control over this. This is part of the zoning ordinance, and it's in here. So it agrees with page 63 because it's a terminology, or and it agrees throughout our book as we just keep seeing the term industrial, but then it drills down on light. Speak now if you have issues with this. I'd like your opinion and how comfortable you are with it, if you see how it ties together. So that's why I wanted to walk you through those pages and illustrate that, and illustrate our zoning ordinance, page 63, how all this loops together. It's just sometimes a term and a legend. So, members. Take your time. Adam, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't see that it's going to cause a conflict or any issues, especially when you're talking about the diagrams and you're using I for industrial district in the maps and what things you just pointed out. I don't think there's an issue or a need to change it to light industrial. I is industrial, and that's represented. I think we're good.
How about you, Dwight?
I don't have any problem the way it's listed, no.
Jim?
No, I don't have any problem either. We've reviewed this before and discussed that before, so I'm satisfied that it's understandable. It accomplishes what we set to do as far as expand or defining the light industrial that can be applied in, according to the maps where it's labeled industrial.
Yes, Dwight.
Roger, there is a piece of property here that is colored in blue on the corner of Easton and Berry Road. And the owners of that property have been contacted, and they have agreed to have that taken off, that industrial part to be taken off.
Yes.
There will have to be a public hearing in order to do that. They have met with Edie to go over any tax implications. Of course, there isn't any. And so they are in agreement to have that industrial use taken off from that property.
And there's a couple others that we want to do at the same time. Of course, when we look at our zoning map on in our master plan on C16, where Wolverine Boiler is, up to the top, that's colored in blue.
Right.
That is now, due to a technical error that Jim caught, that is now red. And our other maps in the township office have been updated. This one wasn't, because it's a different, not a different process, it's just a different printing process. And it doesn't change a fact, because the township clerk has the official zoning map. So when we're talking about maps and you say, well, you got too many maps floating around. No, we don't. I have this marked that when we update this, that will get changed that color will get changed because it was a technical error. But the map that the township clerk has that's signed and stamped is the official map, and the maps in that office, and they are correct. So just so everybody knows that. I'm talking about Wolverine is correct on those maps. Real quick, over on Rives Junction Road, there's a little, I don't know if you can do this, little dot of red way over here. And that property owner, that's Randy Avery on the old, on Rives Junction Road on the old Butts Farm. He's been contacted, he and his wife, and they have no problem with it. They didn't even know that it was commercial. And they have no problem with that going back to ag as well. And there's another little red one just back, kind of Bryce Hammond helped me with this one, and it's kind of a kitty corner from his folks' place there. And that's an old commercial zoning thing that ceased to exist. And maybe the people there don't even know that. I haven't been, COVID hit, and I just finished up, Dwight, you just finished up with your people on that industrial, and I just finished up with the Averys on this piece, and then everything got brought to a halt. But those are some things we want to take care of on our maps.
Right.
Those people, I got to get refreshed on those folks. I in contact them. Yes, Jim.
I was going to suggest that to make the paperwork trail proper in the township records, we should have those people do something, I would think, in writing to agree to it, and so that we can get it to the clerk so that there is a trail of our discussion tonight of people's intentions. We should put that in writing, I would say.
Yeah.
And there has to be a public hearing also.
Okay.
Yes, we got to go through public hearing with this, whether
That would
they
be the
show up or
start.
not. Yep.
Right, that would be the start by those people putting the request in writing.
Correct.
Yeah, that's got to be done when we get to it. And in my mind, I thought we would do all three of those at once, one public hearing with 3 different sessions and pop through them. And then from a cost standpoint, when we do our maps, it will save when we do map changes instead of keep going back. So that's my goal. And it's a goal that I want to have done at the end of this year, but we all know what took place. So anyways, I forgot where I was. Jim, I guess I asked you, you didn't have, and I'm back to you, Christine. Following, and I know you're disadvantaged with not having a master plan, but as we read those titles, industrial, but when we drill down on them, we clearly talk about light industrial, and the master plan has power, and it's a plan, but the legal part is in the zoning ordinance. And when this ordinance passes, that's light industrial, that's the law side of the books that complements the plan side over here. That's why you have the terms that. So how do you feel? I know you brought that up once.
Well, and I apologize, I didn't have the entire master plan map with it. Since we don't have an actual general industrial, I believe that light industrial is sufficient. You know, there's not that conflict because we don't have any true like general industrial at this time.
Yeah, I think we're fortunate there.
I mean, I don't foresee it occurring, you know, we're not as big as Jackson or Ingham County, like Lansing, you know, but that was my concern, that there was just that misconception. I'm okay with it.
Okay, and I am as well, but I just wanted to make sure that this is the type of stuff we want to air out, understand it, see how the pieces fit together. So I think that kind of concludes the work inside our master plan book. And I wanted to point out page 63 to you. And we've talked about, already talked about page 64, section 17.23. So that pretty much wraps up that new work I had going back to the light industrial district. Christine, did you get a chance to read through that?
Yes.
And do you have questions for the planning commission or anything you feel like asking us that to help understand it or
No.
okay, well, because this is something I in the last meeting, I made it very clear to the members that whoever was appointed, we did not want to rush or leave behind. And that's what we reviewed the last time, but we didn't get to the work we just did here. And I wanted to bring that up because it was like Jim said, it was done a long time ago. And I just, about a year ago, he said. And so any well, we have that business open. Go ahead, Jim.
I'd
Yes,
say if it's understood by all of us, and Christine said it was understood by her, I guess I would think we should pick up where we left off December a year ago and proceed to a public hearing. I advertise it as it's designated in our, what's it called? The MZ, just a minute. Michigan Zoning Enabling Act describes how we conduct a public hearing, why we conduct it. And I guess I would make a motion that we're, and then we'll have discussion, make a motion that we proceed to a public hearing to advertise it as prescribed in the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, the language there, and conduct a public hearing regarding the approval of the language that's discussed in draft 6, which we've just gone through, the section amendment to the section 1701, the purpose, the amendment to the section 1723 use regulations, the addition of Article 8 site plan review, section 1799 regarding performance guarantees, escrow, decommissioning and reclamation, and then the replacement of 1755 light industrial. Talked about intent, use regulations, dimension requirements, and supplemental district standards, and 1785B, which discusses the conditional uses. So to summarize that, I guess I would make a recommendation that, my motion was wordy, and so I'll whittle it down. Make a motion that we proceed to public hearing with the language as represented in draft 6-clean.
yes, Dwight.
I would like to see a clean copy put on the internet where any of the general public can see it and understand this clean copy before we proceed with a public hearing.
Sure, and we have a motion on the table, so let's, is there support for the motion? And we'll get back to your comment. Jim, if you could repeat your motion again, because we should do that. It's lengthy for me to repeat, not being there.
Right. The final motion I would make is to proceed with a public hearing as prescribed by the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act for the approval of the amended section 1701, the amended section 1723, the addition of section 17.99, and the amended section 17.55.
Is 1755 amended or newly replaced?
I don't know the difference between those phrases.
Well, we went from industrial as a,
Are they different? Are those two statements different, Roger? Is that what you're saying? They're different? Amended and replaced is different?
well, I think they are because 1755 is the light industrial district. And it's, and I know you got a motion on the table here, but we went from an industrial district to a light industrial, and it's all brand new.
Let's save that for the discussion then.
Okay. So there's a motion on the table. Is there support?
I will second Jim's motion for to move forward with the public hearing.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll go into discussion on that to talk about it. In my mind, the section 17.55, which is the light industrial district in draft 6, is all new. There's nothing amended. It's totally rewritten.
Right.
And you can read above it. It says delete entirety of section 17.55, replaced with the following. And it's entirely new. There's nothing amended. It's from the ground up a new piece of work. Very, very much, although it's replacing actually. So I can't say it's like the escrow performance thing because that's brand new. It was never there, but this is brand new work that's totally replacing the former district. The other thing I'd like to point out while you're thinking about that is in your zoning book, turn to page 74 in your zoning book. And we have a matrix there. And if you would turn to page 4 of your draft 6, there's a matrix there. And because this matrix on page 74 is part of the zoning text, nothing can be changed without public hearing. What we're changing there is the last line called industrial. And it's over here on page 4. How do you want to proceed with that change? I know Adam had thoughts on that at some point, and I'd like to hear him again. But do we make page 4, right on the page 74? And it can be in both places. So how do you want to handle that? That's my question.
We talked about that before. I think we talked about that the last meeting. And I thought we had agreed to just put up the other page from the matrix that we had with this clean version we have draft 6 to add that as another page instead of amending trying to put all the footages and things that we have on page 74, just put another page in there. I know we talked about that. What do you recollect on that, Adam?
Yeah, we did kick it around a couple different ideas, but yeah, I think the easiest is to just pretty much copy this page. Well, it's page 4 of the draft, and insert it, right at page 74 of the ordinance book.
Right.
Well, then we need to, in the motion, be addressing the matrix on page 74 industrial, because that has to be dropped out of there. That's a change. That has to be deleted. And then the new matrix is going to replace it, whether it's on an additional page, that's fine. But we've got to get rid of the old one and get it out of there. Agreed?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I disagree, but that's okay.
How would you get it out of there, Jim?
Well, I think the by having it where it is in the industrial, it serves its purpose. I don't know that it conflicts with anything. I think it's understandable.
So your position is to leave it in the industrial section and not have it near this matrix right here?
That's right.
All right, and that's fine. That's a different thought than what I'm trying to present. So
No,
when
I
you
hear
look
you.
at-
Right, I understand that, Roger. I'm just, you asked me what my thought was and I gave you my thought.
Okay, well, we can't have two sets of dimensions running in our ordinance. So on page 74, we have to delete the current industrial dimensions because they've all been changed and new things added. And does everybody agree that, and that's got to be part of our motion, this has got to be part of our advertisement, that we're deleting page 74, and that's got to be redlined out to illustrate to the people what's going on. And then we have this other one, which is a new matrix for the light industrial district. We all agree on that, but we got to get rid of the old one is what I'm presenting to the committee. And if you want to have an add-on page, if you want to have it in both places, it won't do any harm. I don't care, but we got to get rid of I care about getting rid of the old one. We can't be running, and we have to have that in our business, is what I'm simply saying. And how would you like to proceed with that? That's what I'm saying.
We should vote on the motion and then amend it. Change it or somebody make another motion then.
Mhm.
So this is part of the discussion,
Yes.
right? This is part of the discussion. So we have a motion, a second discussion. Should take a vote on this. And if it fails, then start over.
Yeah, and we can, if that's where we are.
should.
But yes,
Yeah, we should.
and does everyone understand that we have to have something here to delete the industrial line on the matrix on page 74, because we're not going to use it. We have a new one. Are you on board with that, Adam? Christine, are you on board with that?
Yes, I understand. And I understand what you were stating as well, Roger, in regards to, his terminology of amending when in actuality, we're taking the old industrial district wording out and replacing it entirely. So that needs to be stated that way, I believe, in our motion. And then with this other industrial in the grid, that's going to be conflicting to what it is changing in regards to the light industrial. And
Yeah,
we decided to keep it as just industrial, which encompasses the light industrial. So this industrial, we'd have to make a motion to amend that. If it's industrial, it should just be what this light industrial dimensional requirements are.
Sure, because when you read across our current ordinance in page 74 on that matrix for industrial, we talk about lot coverage. Well, there's things we don't even have there. We don't even have impervious surface ratios. We don't have height. There's just things that have been changed across there. So it won't be applicable to the new ordinance. And that's why I say we've got to have it out of there. And where we put the new one, whether you want to have an add-on page, we can do that. We can have it still in the district. We can have it in both places. It doesn't matter. Then it will be redundant or just convenient. But we can't run two sets of specs. That's my point.
Right.
So we have are we ready to move forward?
Mhm.
We have a motion and we have a second. And we'll move forward with a roll call vote. Answer aye and raise your hand. Adam,
Yeah.
Jim,
So the motion is to proceed. Let me read this then. Is that what you want me to do? Should I read what we're voting
no,
on?
I'm asking for your vote. Which way are you? Do you want to resend this and start over or go forward?
Rescind it? Is that what the motion is, to rescind? Or
No,
the motion,
no, sir. We're voting on your motion. We've had discussion and we've
Right.
agreed that there needs to be changes for the most part.
no,
So
no, that wasn't part of the motion to make,
that was part of the discussion.
right? So I'm confused as to what a yes means or what a no means. So I was going to read the motion again.
Sure, go ahead.
Proceed with a public hearing as presented in the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act to amend 1701, amend 1723, add 1799, replace with 1755 as presented in the April 1st, 2020 letter. We call a letter, the 2020, April 1st, 2020 version, period. So if you call
Correct.
for a vote on that motion, I understand what yes would mean and I understand what no would mean. So whether or not to proceed to public hearing with that language. Okay, so start again and call the roll call.
So I'm asking everyone to remember the discussion. So Adam, the motion has been made, it's been supported, we've had discussion. So Adam, answer yes or no, please, to proceed forward with this.
Yeah, I'm still a yes vote to proceed forward as it was presented. However, I do agree that we have to do a separate motion for the changes to page 74 of the ordinance book. If that makes sense.
Yes,
Dwight,
yes,
all right. Jim,
Yes,
Christine,
Yes.
and I'm a no. So the motion is carried with 4 yeas and 1 nay. Jim, did the motion include section 17.85B?
no, it did not.
Well, it's part of the draft.
Well, it included 17.55, which is a light industrial, which goes on continuously. Yeah, okay.
See,
Yeah, that was my-
17.85B is part of Article 7.
Yes, that would, okay. I'd make another motion.
Well, before we do that, so Christine, when we have,
Roger,
Yes? Yes, Jim?
Um, Disregard. I was gonna make a
So-
motion, but you said
Yeah,
don't make
just,
a motion.
oh,
I didn't
yeah, wait
understand
one
that.
moment. Yeah, wait a moment, please. So Christine, in our zoning, we have permitted uses and conditional uses.
Mhm.
Permitted uses are permitted. Conditional uses, the planning commission takes action on those, and we can approve, we can deny, and we can approve with conditions. And so what we have on page 6 of your draft, it says Article 7, conditional uses, and we're adding these because to show you how it pulls together, we turn back to page 4 of your draft 6, and we have 5 conditional uses listed at the top. See that?
Mhm.
Christine, do you see that on page 4 of your draft?
Are you on 4 of the book that I don't have, or which one are you on?
No, this is
Oh, the page 4?
draft 6 of the clean copy.
Oh, yes, the
Yeah,
conditional.
yes, up to the top, it says conditional uses, and there they are, and there's 5, well, 4 of them actually, as you can see. So when you go back to page 6, these are tucked into Article 7 of our zoning book under section 17.85B, and that's why it starts with the number 18, 19, and 20. And they carry on because we're describing the conditions for the conditional uses listed over on that other page.
Okay.
And that's one of the areas in our zoning ordinance that we're kind of hit and miss. We do that, and there's other things we leave out. So I'm just a teachable moment, just pulling so you can be pulled in on why we have those conditions, because we're describing the conditions that came off those conditional uses, and that's what we're doing here. And we have other, that's why it starts with number 18, because it'll tie into our book under Article 7 when you flip your book open and see that. So that was just, I just wanted to share that and pull Christine along with how that fits in. But so if we're gonna, we need another motion to include this. But at the same time, does everyone feel you've addressed page 74? Because I don't feel it's been addressed, or that we can't make a zoning change without taking it to a public meeting, and we got to address the dropping or deleting the industrial line in that matrix. We got to do that. That's the only way we can get it out.
As I was reading the intention of the people through the discussion, until I made the omission that we didn't address in our discussion about me leaving out the conditional uses in my trying to come up with the language for the first motion. As I read the intent, my assumed intention of the people on the planning commission, that was going to be our next motion to address what you called on page 74. So I've confounded this now with needing another motion to include 17.85, the conditional uses, in the public hearing notice, and to confound that with this other thing on page 74. I guess I'd like to see them one done and then the third one done, second one done, and then the third one done. But that whoever makes the motion can, if I don't make it, handle that.
So you would like to see a separate motion, Jim, for page 74 deleting the industrial matrix?
I'm ambivalent, doesn't matter to me.
And then we're going to need I think it's cleaner that way. The following, they're so simple. And then we're going to need a motion to,
Include
adopt
the
this
conditional
plan.
uses.
Yeah, Article 7, conditional uses, section 17.85 as proposed in draft 6. And so would somebody, the chair would entertain a motion. Would somebody like to make one of those?
I will make the motion to remove the industrial section as it's listed in section 17.58, page 74 of that matrix table, and replace it with the new table from page 4 of this draft 6, the dimensional requirements. So I guess to be clear, remove what's currently there, that one line on page 74, and add the new page into that.
I'll second that.
Let me repeat, the motion has been made and seconded. The motion is to remove from the industrial section, the motion is to remove from section 17.58, the industrial section, and add the proposed matrix for the new light industrial table of 17.55. And there has been support. Is that agreeable with the motion maker? Did I say that close?
Yes. Yep, I think you got it.
So if we make up a new page to replace this page 4 that we have in the draft 6 clean version, to just include from C down and have that on a clean page to use to replace the industrial in 1758.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We're in discussion here. Yep. I'm
Sounds
fine with
good.
that. I'm fine with it being on page 4 and being in both places. I don't see how it matters, but it's
It
all
wouldn't
the
hurt to
same
be in both places, but I believe it should be here with the rest of the districts.
I do too.
I agree.
If we want to leave it in the industrial, fine, we can do that also. And leave the page as it is on page 4, but just go from C dimensional requirements down to be entered in a new page to go after page 74.
When you look in our draft, the table is listed as 17.55 and it follows that section, but it doesn't hurt anything. It's fine. Christine, your thoughts?
I'm in favor of that. Just like adding the page is sufficient, or even putting it under the grid. I know it's a little bit different than this particular grid we have, but it is labeled light industrial district opposed to just industrial, because we have the maximum is just split a little bit differently than the others.
Right. And Adam's motion gets rid of the industrial bar going across that graph and replaces it with this one.
Yeah, I think that's fine. If
Yeah, well, I do too. It's absolutely necessary.
to have a whole nother page.
Anyone else? Jim?
Yeah, because I'm going to be involved in the public notice. of this. I'm trying to figure out the paperwork, if you will. I understand the paperwork for including and publishing section 1701, 1723, 1799, 1755. And once one of us makes the motion regarding 1785B, I know how to do that. I know how to give that to the local newspaper to publish it to the public and to all of the utilities and all the other people that we have to give it to. I know how to do that paperwork. To do what we're talking about now and to describe that and to have that be one of the pages in the newspaper, I swung and missed. I haven't figured that out yet. I mean, I hear all what you're saying, but I don't know what page to put in the newspaper to accomplish removing 1758, page 74, and adding proposed matrix table 4, 1755. I don't know how to define that for the public.
I
I
believe,
need help. I need help on that.
yeah, I'd like to step through that. Number one, I think the most important thing we have to do is delete, which we're about to do, the industrial values on page 74, section 17.58, because we all know they're being replaced with page 4. And we have to do that just in a clean motion, just to get that out of there. And that's a very simple thing to advertise, that that's been deleted. You know, you can show that with a red line through it, like we have everything else, and it's replaced with these values. Now, I don't think it's necessary, nor anybody cares where we place them in our ordinance book. You know, it's an ordinance change. This goes out, this comes in, and whether we add an extra page, you know, and we just have a footnote, a matrix continued, and it's an extra page. The values are what we're putting in. We're taking out a set of values and adding another set, and where we arrange them in our book is up to us. That's not arranging the pages isn't a zoning change. You know, whether we have an additional page or we tack on to the bottom of that matrix, or we leave the same information in the section, none of that matters. It's there. We adopted this stuff and it's in there. That's the takeaway. And I don't think we have to get involved in which page goes where. We can do it to our pleasure, you know, in our convenience, because we're the ones that use the book. So it's just the main thing is deleting that line, because those values are no longer applicable to the new light industrial ordinance. And that's why I'm suggesting that it may be easier to, when we assemble the book, to have the page 4 table, you know, a page right here, so it's all convenient for other people, zoning inspectors and all the people that have to use the book besides us, and leave it in the section as well. That's all I'm suggesting. But the main thing is we have to delete the old industrial value in the public hearing. That's the only way we can, and through a motion, because the only way we can get it out of our book. Now's the time to do it. It'll be disastrous to have two sets of values that conflict.
I'd call for a vote then.
Yeah, Adam.
Yeah,
Yeah, can you repeat your motion?
I can try. The motion was to remove the industrial line from section 17.58, page 74. Delete that from that table. Replace that with the new table, which is on page 4 of the draft number 6. Which is
Got it.
table 17.55, light industrial district, dimensional requirements.
Thank you, Adam. I'll read it back for the members as close as I can get it, but Adam's motion stands. It's when we move on it here, replace the industrial line in section 17.58.
No, Roger, he didn't say that. He said remove.
Remove, oh, yeah, remove. Remove industrial line, section 17.58 from page 74. And did you say add or replace next, Adam?
Remove what's currently there and then replace it with table 17.55.
Right, replace with new table in draft number 6, 17.55, dimensional requirements. I'm going to ask the motion maker, is that the motion?
Yes, that is correct.
It's been moved. Is there support?
I'll support it.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried unanimously. All ayes. Thank you. Now we need to get section 17.85B into Article 7. Am I correct?
Yes.
I'd entertain a motion that
I'll make a motion that we proceed with public hearing as presented by in the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act to add to the previous notice that we're going to give the language for section 17.85B.
motion has been made. Is there support?
Yes,
I'll support that.
That was supported by Dwight, if I heard that correctly.
Yes.
Any discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, answer by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There's none opposed. The motion was carried. All ayes. I believe that about wraps up our business here. Was there anything else anyone would like to add or continue with? If not, we will end our business and prepare to go into public comment.
8:05.
Yeah, and I'll read the guidelines once again. The moderator will recognize you by the chat sign-in, which is in place of a sign-up sheet here. And so Jim, go ahead, Jim, the floor is open.
Okay, we invite people to chat if you have a public comment. And as I look at who's requested a chance to chat, I don't see any entries. If that's
There's no
incorrect, if that's incorrect, would you please unmute your position there and correct me if you do want to chat. I don't see any person volunteering to chat.
Hi, my name is Andrea Brenner, and I would like to speak.
Please do.
I'm coming to you today because I was at the last board meeting. I would like to discuss or review the Chapter 10 Private Road and Street Ordinance, specifically 10.03 Section B, which discusses when an easement must be paved. We have a property on an easement that contains four parcels of land, 2 of which are occupied with homes and 2 which we would like to start building on. One of the unoccupied parcels was established in 2004 and the other was established this year. While clearing this property to build, we received a visit from Tom Cottrell, who from my understanding is a zoning enforcer. He stated that he was visiting due to a concern he received from one of the other property owners on the easement. He also stated that we could not build until the easement was paved per the Rives Township ordinance. The 2 properties with existing houses have stated they do not want to pay for this easement to be paved. They have also stated that you have to have 51% in agreement to have an easement paved. After hearing this, we contacted Jerry Adams. Jerry told us that he is in a similar situation. Jerry said that he spoke with the PC, specifically Mr. Carmer, and that they are not willing to budge on the private drive ordinance. I understand why the ordinance was created based on the information Jerry gave me. However, we now have 2 pieces of property that have been surveyed and registered with the county that we basically aren't able to do anything with. I also did not find in the private drive ordinance, which I have a copy of, that you have to have 51% in agreement by all parcel owners to pave. I would like to see the ordinance changed or amended to help with a situation like this. And if not, how do we go about getting the easement paved without being solely responsible for the cost?
I'll speak to that. The way the road ordinance reads, you can have 2 residents, 2 houses on a private drive, a private easement. When you put the 3rd one on that same easement, it needs to be paved. Now you can have your own easement and your own driveway and have any material you want, gravel, whatever you want on it. Your own driveway would not need to be paved.
Okay, so what if the 3rd parcel was already on this easement before the ordinance was created?
Good question. I do not have an answer for that right now.
We would just really like to build. 3 of the 4 property owners are family. We, have the property, we've cleared the land, and now we feel like we're stuck and we're kind of getting bounced around on who to go to next. And the other 2 property owners do not want to pave don't want to be responsible for any cost in paving the easement, which obviously is a big financial burden to come on to one homeowner.
Does your property have an easement to the road?
Yes,
How many feet of frontage do you have?
I would have to look into that.
So you can put your own driveway in, and it can be whatever material you want on it. It would not have to be paved. But the road ordinance was put in because subdivisions were being built on nothing but a gravel and a dirt road. And then after the people got the buildings built, the houses built, they found out, oh, this has got to be paved. Well, in order to stop that, that's why this road ordinance was enacted when it was.
Yeah, I understand that. That makes sense. This easement only goes back about a quarter of a mile. I completely understand why the ordinance is there. I just think that it makes it difficult in situations like this when there's not even room to put another piece of property over there. To be able to, we are not sure what our next step is. And Jerry directed us to you. He said that he's in a similar situation. It sounds like they're already done and built and in the situation, but I don't want to cause any havoc or break any rules. That's why we're here.
If you have 66 feet of frontage on the road, on the main road, then you can make an easement there going back to your property. Our matrix on page 74 states that you need 200 feet of road frontage. Your frontage would be off this easement. Even though you don't have 200 foot on the main road, you would have 200 feet on the easement that goes back to your property.
Okay. Would I be able to set up a meeting with you or maybe just exchange emails, or can I email? I'm sure your email's on the Rives Township page.
I do not have email, no.
Yeah. I'd like to step in for just a moment. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch your first name, ma'am.
My name's Andrea Brenner.
Andrea. We're the Planning Commission, and the gentleman you're speaking to, Dwight Carmer, he is also a Planning Commission member, but he is the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I'd like to suggest to you, first of all, the Planning Commission cannot take care of this problem, this committee right here, but Dwight, am I correct in saying that this is something the Zoning Board of Appeals could look at?
It's pretty much cut and dried as far as the third house going on an existing road that it has to be paved. That's the way the ordinance reads. And the reason it was put in there is because subdivisions had 4 and 5 houses and none but a gravel road and not ditched and drained or anything done right. And
well, is it something you think, I mean, because the appeals process here is that something that you think you could, I mean, it's tough here without maps and knowing the lay of the land and all these things to answer these questions, but do you believe that's something your committee could listen to?
yes, I can go out there and meet with them on the property, yes.
That would be awesome. I would really appreciate that. Jerry Adams is, that he told us to come to this meeting. So, I mean, I don't know if this is the right place to discuss it, but we're just wanting to move forward. So.
Yes, I would be glad to meet you on the property and explain it to you there in person.
Okay. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Would that help?
Just call my home number. It's in the book.
Okay.
Yeah, his number is available through the township office, Andrea.
Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate your help.
Yeah, Dwight Carmer, that's his name. Go ahead, Jim.
Next person in the chat is, I believe, Linda DeBruler. Please proceed, Linda. You'll need to unmute your voice. Linda? Let's try Donna Dom. Do you have a comment? Okay, according to my information here, I don't have anybody else waiting to chat. If you would like to chat, please unmute your device and speak to us. Hearing none, Roger, I believe that's the end of the public hearing or public comments, not public hearing. That's the end of the public comments. Time is 8:16.
All right. I have 8 participation. 8:16, okay. Public comments was closed at 8:16 p.m. Meeting time is the third Monday. Something that works for everyone. Adam, isn't that
Hang on just a minute, Roger. Donna has asked if I can read her text, that she doesn't have ability to speak on this.
Oh,
So,
sure. Yeah, we don't want to leave anybody out.
right, that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, we'll reopen that public comment due to technical difficulties.
So let me see if I can figure out how to read a text. And apparently that's beyond my my technical ability.
I can read it. It
Okay,
says, I
please.
don't have a speaker. I agree public should receive a copy of draft number 6 before the public meeting, please.
Okay, thank you for your comment. So just to, I don't know if we need to respond to that at this point, I will. The public hearing is based upon the copy that will be published in the paper and that will be available on the township website and will be available for review at the township offices, as will be described in the notice published in the Salesman.
Yeah, Jim, as I don't have the visibility that you have as moderator. Does this conclude our public comments?
Yes.
Okay, everyone, thank you. Then we reopened that due to technical issues, and what do you have for a time, Jim?
8:19.
That'll be the official close time for public comment due to the difficulties we had here. So we're still in our open meeting. We haven't closed our meeting, and we have. This is a question form to the Planning Commission. So we have approved our draft 6 in its entirety, which includes section 1701, 1723, the escrow, the light industrial, all the way through. That black, or what we call clean copy, has been approved as a final draft. Am I correct?
Yes.
You know, by unanimous consent. Everyone believes that, right? That's where we are. That's what we just did. Are we all in agreement? I can't hear you.
Yes.
Yes,
Jim?
Yes, yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Yes, I'm a yes. So that, I just want to establish that's what we've just done. Is there any reason? Now, advertising for public hearing is one thing, which there's dates and times and that we have to wait to do that. We can talk about that in a minute, but is there any reason that the planning commission, that we can't have draft 6 put on our website?
No,
I don't think so either. Anybody else?
No, I think
it needs to be.
Yes, and
so in regard to what I said before about how it will be published in the Salesman and on the township website and available for inspection at the township office, those don't three necessarily have to happen on the same day. Right?
that, I agree, that's right.
I agree.
Yeah.
So
Putting it on
two
the
of those,
website, putting it on the website, getting it up there, that clean copy, so people can read through it. They can compare it, and those. It's going to take some, in my mind, some preparation to get the lined out work side by side, and that may come later. But I think what they would like to see is that finished product, and they can compare it to the easily compare it to the old ordinance, and the lined out stuff can come in a later time. The lined out
Roger.
changes.
Roger, none of the motions talked about the lined out history or past. You're going overboard.
Well,
I think.
not. No.
Yeah, you are.
When we advertise this for the public hearing, and putting it on the website is not advertising it for a public hearing. It's just making it available. Jim, when we go into public hearing, and Judy will help, is going to have to help with this, we have to show what we're doing, and we have to show what was changed for the public advertising. But to put something on the website is totally different. The clean copy, that's a whole different thing. That's nothing to do with the public hearing. It's just getting it. We're finished with a draft, and we decided that tonight, and it's just posting it up. And if I'm wrong, then about advertising the lined out work, then I stand corrected. But that's something we'll have to look into. Listen, we haven't done one of these in so long. It's been years. So, but that's the way I understand it. And but we can get some technical help on that, but that's yet to come. So everyone agrees with putting the clean copy up on the web?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I don't see why we can't do that as well. Anything else along those lines? Are we ready to set our next meeting?
Yep.
Mhm.
Adam, you were looking for the third Monday?
All this past year, it was the fourth Monday, and it worked out well for my schedule.
Okay,
Obviously this one was changed just due to the holidays, but the fourth Monday, which means that would be January 25th. And we'll discuss that at the January meeting, I would assume, the calendar for the year, but we can have further discussion on that, but it was always the fourth Monday.
Right.
Okay, I stand corrected. I knew you had a conflict in there and we wanted to work around that. Does the fourth, you said, I looked and I did not have a new calendar to look at, and you said it was January, and it's on my phone here, which I don't want to monkey with. I don't want to get knocked off of Zoom.
Yeah, January 25th.
Yeah, does January 25th work for everybody?
Put it in there, throw it on. Yes.
Yes,
I'm a yes. And we'll wait to see if it's Zoom or if we're live. I don't know yet. We agree to set our next meeting at January 25th.
Yes.
Yep. And it's of course the same time, and it'll be announced if we're Zoom or if we're live. So that's by unanimous consent once again. I'd like to get back to making motions, but I just want to solidify a point here that we can do it this way. I like motions myself. So if there's nothing further, somebody would like to I call for a motion to adjourn.
make the motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried, all ayes. We are adjourned. The time, Jim?
8:27.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll try and call you, Christine, 'cause I want to make sure you have books.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye now.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.